The sun was setting over New Haven Colony when Nate Cooper finished his patrol. Orange light spread across the sky and painted the market square in warm colors. People walked between stalls, buying food and supplies. Children ran and played between the adults. It was a peaceful evening, the kind that made Nate remember why he had brought his family to this distant world. New Haven sat on the edge of Galactic Council space. 12 years ago, the first human settlers had arrived here. They built homes, farms, and schools. They raised families and created a community. But they were not alone. The Valori Dominion shared control of the planet. Their soldiers walked the streets, their ships hung in orbit, and they never let the humans forget who held the real power. Nate had been a Marine before he came to New Haven. He had fought in 3 wars and seen things that still visited him in nightmares. When his wife died 4 years ago, he left the military and brought his daughter to this colony. He wanted peace. He wanted to watch Lily grow up, far from violence and death. Now he served as the colony's security chief. It was a quiet job. Most days, he dealt with minor disputes and helped lost visitors find their way. He liked the simplicity of it. Lily was 7 years old. She had her mother's brown eyes and her father's stubborn spirit. She feared nothing and questioned everything. Right now, she was playing with other children near the fountain in the center of the square. Nate watched her chase a ball, her laughter rising above the noise of the crowd. He smiled. These moments made everything worth it. The Valori patrol entered the square from the north. There were 5 of them, tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. They wore black armor that seemed to absorb light. At their head walked Commander Zareth Velkon. Nate had dealt with Velkon before. She was cruel in ways that went beyond duty. She enjoyed making humans feel small. She called them primitives and animals. She looked at human children like they were insects crawling across her path. The crowd parted as the Valori walked through. People lowered their eyes and stepped aside. Nobody wanted trouble. The Valori had made it clear many times that they considered themselves superior to humans in every way. Lily did not notice the patrol. She was too busy chasing her ball. It bounced away from her, rolling across the stone ground. She ran after it, laughing, not looking where she was going. She collided with Commander Velkon. The impact was light, a small child bumping into an adult, nothing more. But Velkon stopped, as if she had been struck by a weapon. She looked down at Lily with an expression of pure disgust. Lily looked up at the tall alien. Her smile faded when she saw the anger in those dark eyes. "Filthy creature," Velkon said. Her voice was cold and sharp. "You dare touch me?" "I'm sorry," Lily said. Her voice was small. "I didn't mean to." Nate was already moving. He pushed through the crowd, his heart pounding. Something was wrong. He could feel it. Velkon raised her ceremonial staff. It was made of black metal, heavy and hard. She brought it down on Lily with terrible force. The crack of the impact echoed across the square. Lily fell to the ground. Blood spread across her face from deep cuts. Her arm twisted at a wrong angle. She screamed, a sound of pure pain that cut through Nate like a blade. "No!" Nate shouted. He ran toward his daughter. The Valori guards grabbed him before he could reach her. They held his arms and forced him to his knees. He fought against them, but they were strong. He could not break free. The child was crying, blood mixing with tears. Her small body shook with pain and fear. "Let this be a lesson," Velkon said. She spoke loudly, so everyone in the square could hear. "Humans must learn to respect their betters. This child touched me without permission. She has received appropriate punishment." "She's 7 years old," Nate shouted. "She bumped into you by accident." Velkon turned to look at him. Her expression showed no emotion, No guilt, no concern, just cold contempt. Age does not excuse behavior, she said. Perhaps if human parents taught their offspring proper respect, such discipline would not be necessary. Nate struggled against the guards. His vision blurred with rage. He wanted to kill this alien. He wanted to tear her apart with his bare hands. But the guards held him firmly. If any human attempts retaliation, Velcon continued, it will be considered an act of war against the Valori Dominion. The consequences will be severe. She turned and walked away. Her guards followed. They released Nate as they left, dropping him to the ground. He scrambled to Lily's side. He gathered her broken body in his arms. Blood soaked into his clothes. Her crying had become quiet whimpers. She was going into shock. "Daddy," she whispered, "it hurts." "I know, baby, I know." Tears ran down his face. "Help is coming. You're going to be okay." Dr. Grace Ortiz pushed through the crowd. She was the colony's chief medical officer, a small woman with gray hair and steady hands. She had been Nate's friend for years. She knelt beside them and began examining Lily. Fractured arm, deep lacerations on her face, possible concussion. Grace spoke quickly as she worked. "We need to get her to the medical center now." They carried Lily through the streets. People watched in silence. Some were crying. Others had expressions of helpless anger. Everyone understood what had happened. Everyone felt the same fury. But they also felt the same fear. The Valori had all the power. Humans had nothing. Governor Marcus Webb met them at the medical center. He was a thin man with worried eyes. He had led the colony for 8 years, always walking the difficult line between human interests and Valori demands. "I heard what happened," he said. "This is terrible, but we must be careful. We cannot afford conflict with the Dominion." Nate did not respond. He watched through a window as doctors worked on his daughter. Grace was inside, leading the surgery team. Machines beeped. Lights flashed. His little girl lay on a table, broken and bleeding, because she had bumped into an alien who considered her worthless. "Nate," Marcus said, "I know you're angry. We all are. But retaliation would mean war. We would lose everything." Nate finally turned to look at the governor. His eyes were empty in a way that Marcus had never seen before. It was the look of a man who had moved beyond anger into something deeper and more dangerous. "She beat my daughter," Nate said quietly. "She beat a 7-year-old girl with a metal staff because she accidentally touched her. And she walked away, believing there would be no consequences." He turned back to the window. She was wrong. 3 days passed. Lily survived the surgery. Dr. Grace Ortiz had done excellent work, repairing the fractured bone and closing the wounds on her face. But the scars would remain. Every time Nate looked at his daughter, he would see what Commander Velcon had done. Lily slept most of the time. The pain medication kept her in a fog. When she was awake, she asked questions that broke Nate's heart. "Daddy, why did the scary lady hurt me? Did I do something wrong? Will she come back?" Nate held her hand and told her lies. He said everything was fine. He said the scary lady would not hurt anyone again. He said she was safe. But he knew these were empty words. As long as Velcon walked free, as long as the Valori held power over human lives, no child on New Haven was truly safe. Governor Webb visited the medical center every day. He brought flowers and kind words. He talked about filing formal complaints with the Galactic Council. He mentioned diplomatic channels and proper procedures. He spoke of patience and long-term solutions. Nate listened and said nothing. He had stopped believing in diplomacy the moment he saw his daughter's blood on the ground. On the 4th night, after Lily had fallen asleep, Nate went to his office in the security building. He sat alone in the dark for a long time. Then he turned on his computer and opened a communication channel that was not supposed to exist. Before becoming a colonist, Nate had served in the Special Operations Division of the United Earth Navy. He still had contacts in places that official records did not acknowledge. He knew people who knew other people. He had access to back channels that bypassed normal communication networks. He typed a message. He attached files, the security camera footage from the market square, showing exactly what had happened. Medical scans of Lily's injuries. He added a personal note, explaining the situation and what the Valori had said about retaliation. Then he sent the message to a woman named Admiral Diane Holt. The message traveled through a series of relay stations, encrypted and hidden within normal traffic. It took 6 hours to reach Earth. When Admiral Holt received it, she was in her office at United Earth Navy headquarters, reviewing reports from distant outposts. She opened the message and watched the footage. She saw a small girl bump into an alien officer. She saw the alien raise a staff. She saw the blow. She heard the child scream. She watched the father being held back as his daughter bled on the ground. Admiral Holt was 63 years old. She had commanded fleets in 3 major conflicts. She had ordered attacks that destroyed enemy armadas. She had signed death warrants for traitors and war criminals. Very little disturbed her anymore, but her hands shook as she watched the footage again. She had grandchildren, 3 of them all under 10 years old. When she looked at the bleeding child on the screen, she saw their faces. Within an hour, Admiral Holt had called an emergency meeting of the Earth Defense Council. The room filled with military commanders and civilian leaders, all watching the footage on a large screen. Nobody spoke while it played. When it ended, silence held the room for a long moment. The Valori claim that any response will be considered an act of war, Admiral Holt said. They believe we will do nothing. General Carlos Mendez, commander of ground forces, leaned forward. With respect, Admiral, they beat a 7-year-old girl until her bones broke. If we do nothing, we tell every species in the galaxy that human children can be attacked without consequences. The Secretary of Defense, Ellen Moore, nodded slowly. The political implications are significant. Every human colony will be watching our response. If we appear weak, the Valori and others will only become more aggressive. And if we respond militarily, we risk war with the Dominion, said another voice. Admiral Holt stood and walked to the screen. The image was frozen on Lily's face, blood spreading across her features, eyes wide with pain and fear. Humanity did not survive ice ages by being passive, she said quietly. We did not defeat predators and plagues by hoping they would leave us alone. We did not reach the stars by asking permission. She turned to face the council. We became the dominant species on a death world because we protected our own, because we never let attacks go unanswered. The room was silent. The Valori think we are primitives, Admiral Holt continued. They think we are animals who stumbled into space by accident. They believe they can do whatever they want to us because we are too weak and too afraid to respond. She paused. I propose we educate them. The vote was unanimous. Operation Silent Justice was authorized. A task force would be assembled and dispatched to New Haven. Commander Velcon would be arrested and brought before the Galactic Council for trial. Any Valori resistance would be met with overwhelming force. Back on New Haven, Nate received a reply to his message. It was short and simple. Message received. Help is coming. Keep your daughter safe. He closed the message and went back to Lily's room. She was awake, looking at the ceiling, with tired eyes. When she saw him, she tried to smile, but the movement pulled at the stitches on her face, and she winced. Daddy, she said, I had a dream about the scary lady. Nate sat on the edge of her bed and took her small hand in his large one. What happened in the dream? She was hurting other kids, little ones smaller than me. Lily's eyes filled with tears. Will she hurt other kids, Daddy? Nate squeezed her hand gently. He thought about the message she had sent. He thought about the people who were coming. He thought about what humanity did to those who harmed their children. No, sweetheart, he said. She will never hurt anyone again. I promise. For the first time in 4 days, he meant it. Across the colony, life continued as if nothing had happened. The Vialori still patrolled the streets. Commander Velkon still walked through the market square, head high, eyes full of contempt. She had received commendation from her superiors for maintaining discipline among the humans. She expected promotion soon. She did not know that ships were already moving through space toward New Haven. She did not know that humanity's response had begun. She believed she had won. She believed humans would always submit. She was about to learn otherwise. In the darkness between stars, the UEN Valor and its escort ships traveled at speeds that should have been impossible. Inside, soldiers checked weapons and reviewed mission plans. Captain Luis Vega stood on the bridge, watching the stars blur past. He had seen the footage too. Everyone in the fleet had seen it. There were no doubts about this mission. There was no hesitation. A child had been hurt. Someone was going to answer for it. That was how humanity worked. That was why the galaxy should have been afraid. The Valori sensor station floated in the darkness at the edge of the New Haven system. 3 technicians monitored screens that showed nothing but empty space. It was boring work. Nothing ever happened here. Human ships came and went on predictable schedules. Cargo transports, supply vessels. Nothing worth reporting. Then the screens flickered. The senior technician leaned forward, studying the readings. Something had appeared at the edge of sensor range. No, wait, it was gone. Then it appeared again in a different location. Then gone again. What is that? Asked one of the junior technicians. I don't know. Some kind of malfunction, maybe. But the readings continued. Objects appearing and disappearing, moving closer each time. The senior technician felt cold fear spreading through his body. He had heard stories about human military technology. Now he wondered if they were true. He opened a communication channel to the Valori command ship in orbit above New Haven. This is Sensor Station 7. We are detecting unknown contacts approaching the system. We cannot maintain consistent readings. Something is interfering with our equipment. The reply came quickly. What kind of contacts? We don't know. They appear and disappear. Our sensors cannot track them properly. There was a pause. Then, how many contacts? The senior technician looked at his screen. For a brief moment, the readings stabilized. He counted the shapes before they vanished again. 7 ships. They are moving fast. Very fast. On the command ship, Admiral Torek Velshan received the report with contempt. 7 ships? The humans were sending 7 ships against his fleet of 15? They were more foolish than he had thought. He ordered his fleet to battle positions, and waited. The UEN Valor dropped out of faster-than-light travel like a predator emerging from shadows. It was massive, a Devastator-class carrier, bristling with weapons that had been designed by a species that had spent its entire history perfecting the art of killing. 6 escort ships appeared beside it, spreading into attack formation. Captain Louis Vega stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. He could see the Valori fleet arranging itself between him and the planet. 15 ships. They probably thought they had the advantage. He almost smiled. Open a communication channel, he ordered. The face of Admiral Velshan appeared on screen. He was older than most Valori, his blue skin marked with the symbols of rank and honor. His expression showed confidence bordering on arrogance. Human vessel, he said. You are in violation of Valori space. You will surrender your ships immediately, or be destroyed. Captain Vega's response was calm and direct. We are here for Commander Zareth Velkan. She is wanted for the assault of a human child. Surrender her to our custody, and we will depart peacefully." Velshan laughed. It was a harsh sound, full of contempt. "You come here with 7 ships and make demands? You are outnumbered more than 2 to 1. Your species truly is as stupid as we believed." "This is your only warning," Vega said. "Surrender the commander, or we will take her." "Enough of this." Velshan cut the communication. The Veilori fleet moved forward, their weapons charged, their shields powered up. They had fought many battles against many species. They had always won. They expected this to be no different. The battle lasted 11 minutes. Human weapons technology was not pretty, it was not elegant. It was built by a species that had spent thousands of years killing each other with ever-increasing efficiency. Every weapon on every human ship was designed with one purpose: to destroy the enemy as quickly and completely as possible. The first volley tore through Veilori's shields like they were made of paper. Ships that had protected the Dominion for centuries became fireballs in seconds. Electronic warfare systems blinded sensors and confused targeting computers. The Veilori found themselves firing at shadows, while human weapons struck with perfect accuracy. Admiral Velshan watched his fleet die around him. He screamed orders that nobody could follow. He called for reinforcements that were too far away to help. He finally understood what the intelligence reports had meant when they called Earth a death world. His people had evolved on a gentle planet, with stable climate and few predators. They had achieved civilization without struggle. They had reached the stars without ever learning what it meant to fight for survival. Humans were different. Humans came from a world that tried to kill them every day, a world of predators and diseases and natural disasters. A world where only the strongest and smartest survived. Everything about humanity had been shaped by endless conflict. Their bodies were strong, their reflexes were fast, their minds were sharp, and their technology reflected their nature. The Veilori had never faced anything like this. Captain Vega watched the battle unfold on his tactical display. Enemy ships disappeared one by one. His own ships moved through the chaos like wolves among sheep, striking fast and moving before the enemy could respond. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "enemy fleet is breaking formation. Several ships are attempting to retreat." "Let them go," Vega said. "We're not here to destroy their entire fleet. We're here for one person." The surviving Veilori ships scattered. Some jumped to faster-than-light travel, fleeing the system entirely. Others simply went dark, hoping to avoid attention. Within 11 minutes, the Veilori fleet that had protected New Haven was gone. Vega opened a channel to the orbital station where the Veilori garrison was headquartered. "This is Captain Louis Vega of the United Earth Navy. Your fleet has been neutralized. Your reinforcements are 6 days away. You have 1 hour to surrender Commander Velkan, or we will come and get her." There was no response. Vega nodded to his executive officer. "Prepare the Marine boarding teams." On the station, chaos had erupted. Officers ran through corridors, trying to organize defenses that would be useless against what was coming. Commander Velkan was in her quarters, watching the destruction of the fleet through her window. She could not believe what she was seeing. This was not possible. Humans were primitives. Animals. They could not have this kind of power. But the burning wreckage of Veilori warships told a different story. The first boarding pods hit the station's hull with sounds like thunder. Armored Marines poured through breached airlocks, moving with speed and precision that seemed impossible for beings of their size. They wore powered combat suits that made them faster and stronger than any Veilori soldier. Their weapons fired projectiles that punched through armor like it was not there. The station's defenders tried to fight back. They died quickly. Sergeant Major Cole Bradley led his squad through the station's corridors. He had been a soldier for 22 years. He had fought on a dozen worlds. He had seen things that would break most minds, but he had never been more motivated than he was today. He had seen the footage. He had seen what Velkan did to that little girl. He had a daughter of his own, about the same age. This mission was personal. "Target is moving toward the shuttle bay," reported one of his soldiers, reading data from a tracking device. "She's trying to run." Bradley smiled grimly. "Then let's catch her." Commander Velkan ran through the station's corridors, her breath coming in sharp gasps. Behind her, she could hear weapons firing and soldiers screaming. The humans were everywhere. They moved through the station like shadows, appearing from unexpected directions, striking fast and disappearing before anyone could respond. She reached the shuttle bay and found a small transport ship waiting. The pilot was dead, killed by a human sniper's shot through the viewport. She pushed his body aside and took the controls herself. She had basic flight training. It would have to be enough. The transport lifted off and shot toward the planet below. Behind her, the station was falling. Explosions bloomed across its surface. Emergency lights flickered. She could hear the garrison commander's final transmission before it cut off mid-sentence. She had to reach the wilderness. The forests of New Haven were dense and vast. She could hide there until reinforcements arrived. The Valori fleet would come. They would destroy these human animals. Everything would be fine. She just had to survive until then. The transport crashed into a clearing at the edge of the forest. Velkan climbed out, injured but alive. Blood ran from a cut on her head, but she could still walk. She looked up at the sky and saw human ships moving into orbit. They controlled everything now. There was no escape by air. She turned and ran into the trees. Sergeant Major Cole Bradley watched the transport crash from the window of a descending shuttle. He noted the location and began planning his approach. 12 soldiers were with him, the best trackers and hunters in the Special Operations Division. "She's heading into the forest," he said. "Dense terrain, limited visibility. She thinks she can hide until her people arrive." One of his soldiers, a young woman named Amy Torres, checked her weapon. "How long until Valori reinforcements get here?" 6 days. We have plenty of time." The shuttle landed near the crash site. Bradley led his team to the transport and examined the ground around it. Blue blood on the broken hull. Footprints leading into the forest. She was injured and scared. "Good. She's got maybe a 4-hour head start," Bradley said. "She doesn't know this terrain. She's wounded. She's not trained for wilderness survival." He looked at his team. These were humans who had grown up on a death world. They had evolved from creatures that chased prey across endless plains until it collapsed from exhaustion. They could run for hours without stopping. They could track animals through any environment. They could survive in conditions that would kill most galactic species in days. "We don't need to catch her quickly," Bradley continued. "We just need to keep following her. Eventually, she'll stop. Eventually, she'll make a mistake. Eventually, she'll run out of energy." He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "That's when we take her." The hunt began. Velkan moved through the forest as fast as she could. The trees were tall and close together, blocking most of the sunlight. Strange animals made sounds in the shadows. She had never been in a wilderness like this before. The Valori homeworld had been tamed thousands of years ago. There were no wild places left, no predators, no dangers. She did not know how to survive here. After 6 hours, she stopped to rest. Her legs were shaking. Her wound had stopped bleeding, but her head still hurt. She leaned against a tree and tried to catch her breath. Then she heard something. Footsteps, far behind her, but getting closer. She ran again. The humans followed. They did not run. They walked at a steady pace, never hurrying, never stopping. They tracked her through the forest with an ease that seemed supernatural. Every broken branch, every disturbed leaf, every drop of blood told them where she had gone. Hours passed. Day became night. The forest grew dark and cold. Velkan stumbled through the blackness, barely able to see. Her body was failing. She had not eaten or drunk anything since leaving the station. Her muscles were cramping. Her vision was blurring. But still, she could hear them behind her. The humans had equipment that let them see in the dark. They had supplies and water. They took turns resting while others continued the pursuit. They were never tired. They were never lost. They were always there, just beyond her sight, following relentlessly. This was what it meant to be prey. Velkan had never understood that feeling before. Her species had always been predators, always been in control. They took what they wanted and destroyed what they did not need. They had never been hunted. They had never felt the terror of being chased by something that would not stop. Now she understood. By the second day, she could barely walk. She had found a small stream and drunk from it, but her body was shutting down. She had not slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard footsteps approaching. Every time she tried to rest, fear drove her forward. The humans were not trying to catch her. They were trying to break her. Amy Torres reported to Bradley as they followed the trail. She's slowing down. Probably hasn't slept in over 30 hours. She won't last much longer. Bradley nodded. Good. Keep the pressure on. I want her too exhausted to fight when we finally take her. Sir, Torres said quietly, why are we doing it this way? We could have caught her hours ago. Bradley stopped walking and looked at the younger soldier. Do you know what she did? She beat a 7-year-old girl with a metal staff, broke her arm, cut her face open, and she walked away like it was nothing, like the child was just an insect she had stepped on. His voice was calm, but his eyes were cold. She needs to understand what it feels like to be helpless. She needs to know what humans do to those who hurt our children. When we finally catch her, I want her to remember this hunt for the rest of her life. Torres nodded slowly. She had children too. The hunt continued. On the third day, Velkan found a cave. She crawled inside and collapsed. She could not move anymore. Her body had nothing left to give. She lay in the darkness, listening to her own heartbeat, waiting for the end. Footsteps approached the cave entrance. A light appeared, blinding in the darkness. A figure stepped into the cave, tall and broad, wearing armor that made him look like a monster from old stories. Cole Bradley looked down at the broken creature before him. She was covered in dirt and dried blood. Her eyes were wild with fear and exhaustion. She trembled as he approached. Please, she whispered. Please don't kill me. Bradley crouched beside her. His voice was quiet and steady. You struck a child, a little girl who did nothing but bump into you by accident. You broke her bones and cut her face and walked away believing there would be no consequences. He leaned closer. You were right about one thing. We are animals. We are from a death world where everything wants to kill you. We evolved as predators. We survived by being stronger and smarter and more vicious than anything else on our planet. Velkan could not look away from his eyes. There was something ancient there, something that remembered millions of years of blood and death and survival. But there's something you didn't understand about predators, Bradley continued. We protect our young. We protect them with everything we have. And when something threatens our children, we don't stop hunting until the threat is eliminated. He stood up. Commander Zareth Velkan, you are under arrest for the assault of a human child. You will be transported to the Galactic Council for trial. 2 soldiers entered the cave and lifted Velkan to her feet. She did not resist. She had nothing left. As they carried her out of the cave, she understood something that her species had never learned. Humans were not primitives who had stumbled into space by accident. They were apex predators from a nightmare world. They had clawed their way to the stars through blood and fire and death. And they never forgot those who harmed their families. The Galactic Council Chamber was the largest structure in known space. It hung in orbit around a dead star, a monument to cooperation between species. Representatives from 100 worlds gathered here to debate laws and resolve conflicts. For 3,000 years, this chamber had maintained peace across the galaxy. Today, it would witness something new. Ambassador Patricia Quinn walked through the massive doors with her head held high. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had spent 40 years in diplomatic service, negotiating treaties and preventing wars. She had faced hostile delegations and survived assassination attempts. Nothing frightened her anymore. Behind her came 2 Marine guards in full ceremonial armor. Between them, wearing restraints, walked Commander Zareth Velkan. The chamber fell silent as they entered. Representatives from dozens of species turned to watch. The Veilori delegation rose to their feet, their faces twisted with anger. Ambassador Kareth Velmorn, the senior Veilori representative, stepped forward. "This is an outrage," he shouted. "You have attacked our ships, killed our soldiers, taken a decorated officer prisoner. This is an act of war." Quinn did not respond immediately. She walked to the human delegation's platform and took her seat. Only then did she look at the Veilori representative. "We have taken a criminal into custody," she said calmly. "Commander Velkan is charged with the assault of a human child on the colony world of New Haven. We are delivering her to this council for trial." "A child?" Velmorn laughed harshly. "You destroyed a fleet over a child? You killed hundreds of our warriors over a single human offspring." Quinn's expression did not change. "Yes." The chamber went very quiet. "Let me show you why," Quinn continued. The footage from New Haven's Market Square began to play. Every representative in the chamber watched as a small girl bumped into a Veilori officer. They watched the officer raise her staff. They watched the blow. They heard the child scream. They saw the blood spreading across her face as she fell. Some representatives looked away. Others watched with expressions of shock or disgust. A few species, predators themselves, watched with understanding. When the footage ended, Quinn spoke again. "Commander Velkan assaulted a 7-year-old child because the child accidentally touched her. She broke the child's arm. She cut her face deeply enough to leave permanent scars. Then she declared that any response would be considered an act of war." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We requested that Commander Velkan be surrendered to face justice. The Veilori refused. They believed that their military superiority would protect them from consequences." She looked directly at the Veilori delegation. They were wrong. Velmorn tried to regain control of the situation. "This is a clear violation of galactic law. The humans have committed unprovoked aggression against a founding member of this council." "Unprovoked?" Quinn raised an eyebrow. "Your officer beat a child until her bones broke. Your government protected her. Your military refused to surrender her. What would you call that?" "Discipline," Velmorn shouted. "The child needed to learn respect. Humans are primitives. You come from a death world. You barely understand civilization. You should be grateful that we allow you to exist in our space." The chamber buzzed with murmured conversations. Many species shared the Veilori view of humans. They were newcomers, after all. They had only been spacefaring for 2 centuries, while other species had traveled the stars for thousands of years. Quinn stood and walked to the center of the chamber. She moved slowly, deliberately, letting every eye focus on her. "You are right," she said. "We are from a death world. We are primitives. We are animals." She turned in a slow circle, addressing all the representatives. "Let me tell you about Death Worlds. Let me tell you about Earth." Her voice carried through the vast chamber. "Our planet tried to kill us every day. We faced predators with teeth longer than our arms. We survived ice ages that covered half our world in frozen death. We endured plagues that wiped out a third of our population. We lived through earthquakes and volcanic eruptions and floods that destroyed entire civilizations." She paused. "And we survived. We survived because we learned to adapt. We survived because we became the most dangerous predators our planet had ever seen. We survived because we protected our families with a ferocity that nothing else could match." She looked at Velmorn. "You call us primitives. You are not wrong. We are primitive in ways that you cannot understand. We have instincts that your gentle homeworld never required. We have rage that your peaceful evolution never developed." She stepped closer to the Valori delegation. "But there is something else you should understand about primitives from Death Worlds. We protect our children. We protect them with everything we have. When something threatens our young, we do not negotiate. We do not compromise. We hunt." She gestured at the restrained commander. "Your officer harmed a human child. She thought there would be no consequences because we are primitives. Because we are newcomers. Because we are outnumbered and outgunned and surrounded by species that look down on us." Her voice dropped to something quiet and cold. She was wrong. The chamber was completely silent. "Commander Velkon will stand trial," Quinn continued. "She will face justice for what she did. This is not negotiable." Velmorn tried one more time. "And if we refuse to recognize this trial, if we demand her return?" Quinn smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "Then we will remember. Humanity has a long memory, Ambassador. We remember our enemies. We remember those who stood with them. And we remember those who harmed our children." She looked around the chamber. "We know that many species here consider us primitives. You are right to be cautious of us. But understand this. We did not survive a death world by being merciful. We did not reach the stars by forgiving those who hurt us. We became what we are through millions of years of blood and death and survival." She walked back to her platform. "We are not asking for your approval. We are not asking for your permission. We are informing you that humanity will protect its children no matter the cost. Any species that harms human young will face consequences. Any government that protects those who hurt our children will become our enemy." She sat down. "That is all." The council deliberated for less than 1 hour. Commander Velkan was found guilty of assault and sentenced to 20 years of imprisonment. The Valori Dominion was ordered to pay reparations to the colony of New Haven. A formal apology was demanded. More importantly, a message was sent across the galaxy. Human children were protected. The Death Worlders remembered their enemies. Those who harmed human young would find no safety anywhere. 1 year later, Nate Cooper watched his daughter play in the rebuilt market square. The scars on her face had faded to thin white lines. She laughed as she chased her friends around the fountain. She was happy. She was safe. A Valori trade delegation visited the colony that day. New representatives, carefully chosen for their diplomatic skills. When one of them accidentally stepped too close to a group of playing children, he immediately backed away with a deep bow and a formal apology. The children did not even notice. They were too busy playing. That was how it should be, Nate thought. Children should not have to be afraid. They should be free to play and laugh and grow up without fear. That was what parents were for. That was what humanity did. They built a galaxy where their children could be safe. And they destroyed anyone who threatened that safety. Above the colony, human ships maintained orbit. Across the galaxy, human fleets patrolled the borders of human space. In the great chamber of the Galactic Council, other species spoke carefully when discussing Earth. The Deathworlders had made their position clear. Their children were protected. Their families were sacred. Their vengeance was absolute. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson. Humanity hoped they would never need to teach it again, but if they did, they would be ready.